Here.
Or council resident,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Thank you.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have, executive session now. The attendees will be Commissioners Sigmund, Richards, Waldron, hopefully with Commissioners Anderson and Rachel. And also along with Executive Director Almira, Court Attorney Greg Chicken, Court Attorney John McNeil, Attorney Robert Wilkins, Court Reporter Susan. So we're going to do that now.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Let the record show, Commissioner Jean Enright arrived at 3:01 p.m. and attended the executive session. We have approval of minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Do we need presentations or announcements?
No.
Consent agenda? Anybody have any items?
Yes, ma'am. In the consent agenda, under, if I could add, the MLK coordinating committee, we had talked about that earlier this year, and I was told that we would discuss it at another time. Since then, Edithburg has some new information, I want to add the inside code to the sweet ticket. And then also we pay for 30 or 40 children to eat. It was not for us, but it was for the table, and I think it was the other ticket that we paid last year. I had discussed it in National, and said, bring it back. I think it was in the July meeting, and then, I think she said in August or July. And then I was told to bring it back at this time, so she has, Ms. Bush has submitted the information. Jara has it, and I would like to know if the board would consider doing it. Now, when it occurred last year, at the MLK breakfast, I know that Ivy, when she was here, made a big, what is it called?
Banner?
Banner. And they put it in the Transit Center. Did you see it, Ronnie?
No, I did
Was
not.
it? Not at the convention center.
Okay.
And they hung it in the convention center so large. So everyone who came in, they saw the Port of Palm Beach. I mean, it's huge. I'm sorry, I'm not talking. Please forgive me. So everyone who entered the convention center saw the Port of Palm Beach banner, and I thought it was very good publicity at that time, and I would like to know if the commissioners would be willing to do it this year.
Okay, so you want to add into the consent agenda,
I want to add the MLK coordinating committee that we can purchase an ad and then pay for underprivileged disadvantaged children to attend the breakfast and also have our banner to continue to fly at the convention center.
okay, Commissioner Richards.
Commissioner Wright, I like the overall idea, but can you work this up with staff?
They've already,
Is it on the agenda?
No.
I wanted to be placed on the agenda. Jara, I talked to Jara about it and.
I want to support it, but I have no idea, are we gonna feed kids or buy kids tickets or what?
Yeah.
Is it time sensitive? Can you meet the staff?
Can we put it on for next month?
Okay, we can do it
Yeah.
December?
Yeah.
So please,
Okay.
you agree, Madam Chair, to put on the agenda?
Did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna add that the agenda was already published when I got the information.
Right.
I do have the information. We can put it on in December. We do need to go ahead and play, we do need to let them know though if we're gonna take an ad. And it's 30 student breakfast tickets at $25 each, which is $750. The ad is $350.
And
So
when
together-
is this?
So it's
This
$1,100.
is January,
21?
exactly.
So it's $1,100, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I like the idea. I think it should be on the agenda,
Okay.
and hopefully next month we'll be unanimous.
Yeah.
That's fine. I just mentioned it because we did, talk about it earlier this year. She said to bring it back and then because she did send it to the court. Okay, so, but, can Jeremy tell her that we can do it? Let's just wait here. What's your pleasure? Because she
see all prophecy as well.
There you go.
I think the publicity is so good for the Port of Palm Beach when it's put our banners in the convention center.
So we should go
That's
next.
very nice.
Next time.
You know the date?
I don't know the date. I don't
Okay.
know, I'm sorry.
So, any other changes to the consent agenda? Someone want to make a motion?
Full approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Go to the record.
Okay, great, thank you. Commissioners, I'd like to start by introducing our new assistant controller. Her name is Parisha. I'm gonna maybe boil it here. Hamzat or Hasatosh? Hamzatosh, sorry. She joined us in October. She brings an extensive knowledge of auditing. She is a CPA and holds a master's degree in accountancy in government accounting. We won't ask which school, but the one that Peyton went to. One of those.
There you go.
One of those. Well, especially welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Commissioners, we moved into what was briefly discussed during our last board meeting, and that's port resiliency. The Florida Ports Council recently compiled a report called Port Resiliency. Commissioners, each of you has a copy. The report has two parts, sea level rise and port recovery following a major hurricane. With that said, let me just give you a summary of the report, but please do read it, and if you have any questions, bring it back and we'll try to answer. Again, the Florida Ports Council commissioned a paper titled Seaport Resiliency Report. By the way, the governor has just appointed a chief resiliency officer. And as I mentioned before, the port has two main components. One, how sea level rise can affect all Florida seaports. Number two, how Florida ports can harden themselves to survive a major hurricane. By most accurate information for Florida, provided by U.S. Corps of Engineers and NOAA, is the sea level rise of 1.65 to 3.95 feet by the year 2100. That's 80 years from now. To put this in perspective, our flood tides, one that we experience, or our spring tides, can be as high as 3 feet above normal. To simply say raise the docks is not an efficient option, since there is an efficiency relationship between dock heights, cargo handling equipment, and ships. To change one means you have to change all in order to maintain the operational efficiencies. The Florida Ports Council report recommends that I want to stress this, do not immediately start to raise bulkheads and docks. It would be a waste of resources. Since docks and bulkheads have 20 to 50 year lifespan, the recommendation is to monitor the rise and to accommodate for it in our master plan and the future infrastructure replacement cycle. However, the Port of Palm Beach has not been sitting idle by watching the water rise. For a year ago, the Berth 1 bulkhead replacement project was being designed. The effects of sea level rise were being incorporated into the plan. The mounting points for the bulkheads that the Seaguard's fenders attached to were raised 8 inches. The concrete cap up top of the bulkhead was designed to accommodate an additional 2 feet of concrete if the need arises to provide additional protection for the dock and the cruise terminal office complex. And I want to stress this because this is what I hear time and time again. We are only as good as our neighbors. If they don't do anything, and God forbid, by 2021 or 2100, the water could come around, and obviously, whatever we did, it goes to no avail. The second part of the report is hurricane resilience. Having a plan in place to quickly recover from direct hit from a major hurricane is a timelier topic. Instead of happening decades from now, it could happen next week. The report states that most critical priority for planning is the need to ensure that channel navigable waters are clear for access to the port. That's in the report, and that's something that we all practice. It's been said that after a hurricane, water may not be the number one item that we need. We need fuel in order to get everything back on. So, after almost a year of planning, study and coordination between the Port, and the Coast Guard, the Port was allowed to use a private contractor to provide post-storm depth sounding that would be accepted by both the Corps as well as Coast Guard in deciding when to reopen the port. This plan was implemented after Dorian, remember him? And the port was reopened at 11 a.m. the morning after the storm passed. Normally it would take us at least 24 hours of really a long wait for the Coast Guard to finally call to say you're open. So recapping, Commissioners, the Port Council reports to list another dozen things that could be accomplished before a hurricane hits. We have already done everything on that list. As with anything, more can always be done. With the governor's new emphasis on port resiliency, grant funds should soon be available for FESTED Council, FDOT, to mitigate whatever issue we discover. As you can see, the Port of Palm Beach has taken a proactive approach to port resiliency long before it was a trendy topic of discussion. I encourage you to read the report, particularly if you can't sleep at nights. That'll will certainly assist in diplomacy.
So,
At the end of the day, it really is nothing much to worry about. We are ahead of the game, essentially.
So, do you not think we need a vulnerability study done to see what we should do to harden the port?
No, but I do believe that it will be one of the topics to be covered in our next master plan. But keep in mind, one of the points that they raised was what we are building today usually has a 20, 30, 40-year lifespan. So the time cycle by, God forbid, this rise in water will not be affecting our births at this point. We may not be here by the time this, if it even happens. So we will definitely be including this. It's one of our priorities for the master plan, which is, we'll start on
Because there
next year.
seems to be a lot of funding opportunities here to get help funding the resiliency.
There should be, Commissioner. Unfortunately, I have not been privy to it. In other words, that a certain amount has not been allocated.
It just says there's a lot of governmental entities that have funding.
Sure, yes. We will be monitoring that as well, yes.
Let the record show also that Commissioner Anderson arrived at 4:10. All right.
All right, so then move, again, please, if you're able to read the report, if you have any questions that we can answer, by all means. Next is the agenda topic. I had sent an email back on Friday letting the commissioners know that I will be bringing this up. During our last board meeting, there was a lot of conversation regarding what can be on an agenda and what cannot, or how it will be added. I have, it's also included in your packet, I have a copy of the agenda topics that have been in place way before I even came here, and I believe that Greg Picken, our attorney, is also not here when this was actually adopted by the board. But under number 4, which seems to be where the big question was, it reads, any items may be withdrawn from the agenda if requested by the port director or a member of the board. If such a request is concurred in by a majority of the board present at a regular meeting. The translation is basically if an agenda item comes up and which I normally would put it on the agenda, any commissioner can actually ask for that particular item, or any be withdrawn, and then it'll be a vote that the board would have made during the meeting. Is there anything you may want to add? Pretty much covers it. Now, if you'd like to change that, this is the time to bring it up.
I have a question. So you're saying any item, okay, if something is on the agenda, you say, hey, I don't think it should be on there, then we have to vote. Or vice versa, if someone says they want to have something on the agenda at that time, then we would have to vote to put it on at that particular time?
That's my understanding.
I guess it's to take off and put on.
The way it has always worked, and the way I interpret the board policy, if it's not on the agenda when the agenda goes out, you can add at a meeting, at the meeting itself, with the concurrence of 3 commissioners. And you can delete items at a meeting with the concurrence of 3, or I should say a majority of commissioners. There may only be 3 present, and then 2 could vote to add or delete.
This is not to be confused, which I think is maybe what's on the play here. If there's an emergency meeting, when 2 commissioners may want to have an emergency meeting, then it gets on the agenda.
Say that again?
Well, there would be an emergency meeting.
I'm sorry?
Then you're saying that in that event, there would be an emergency.
There would be an emergency meeting, correct.
2?
For, under the 4 policies, to call an emergency meeting, yes.
Right.
I mean, no, the other 3 don't have to show up, which means that there's no, there'd be no quorum, so you wouldn't be able to go forward with any business.
Yeah.
Do we make a decision on putting things on the agenda? Like if I called you up, gave you some ridiculous thing, what's the rules about putting it on the agenda?
Then-
It used to be the chair used to, kind of do all this. And, but now I'm just curious how that's gonna.
There's been no change to the 4 policies.
What's the policy?
Right, as there's been no change to the official 4 policies as adopted by the board.
What's the policy?
With regard to how items get on the agenda. However, I'm not aware of Mr. Almira declining to put something on the agenda. And even if he did, when
That's
he
the
got to the
problem.
meeting, it could be added.
Well, that's the problem.
After
But mine,
you- after you
sorry.
finish. After you finish. please.
Thank you.
Well, I think Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I could get, in other words, I could call Manny tomorrow for the next meeting, give him 6 things I'd like to put on the agenda, and he would just do it. That's my problem.
Well, I mean, things can be taken to an absurd,
Exactly.
some absurd examples.
Exactly.
And I would imagine if that began to happen, that at the board meeting, there would be discussion about that, and those 6, let's say there were 6, I don't want to accuse anybody of putting a ridiculous item on, but let's say.
Excuse me.
And I might.
Okay.
Okay.
The board would say, no, no, no,
I
no,
get you.
no.
Okay, that makes
Right.
sense. Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson.
Just along those lines, just for a point of clarification, what are the steps in order to add, and maybe is there a policy, is there a written policy, or there's policy that has been adopted via resolution, because I know our charter doesn't speak to it. So I guess my question is, what steps are there to add an item? Is there a consensus of one person may add it and then needs a second or another commissioner to add it? Or do we just do a professional courtesy as like, I know not to the extent of adding 6 items, sure, but for 1 or 2 items or for items that wanted to be added? How is that? And what is the policy on that and where is it?
Here's where I go by. If Commissioner B would like to add something to the agenda, Commissioner B will contact me via B or myself, explain what the agenda item will be, and then according to this, it will be up to me to allow it to be on the agenda or not. And I'm here to tell you that I have not yet rejected, nor have I ever That doesn't mean that it's going to be discussed at the board meeting, because a commissioner could ask that that particular item that Commissioner B put in to be withdrawn, and then there will be a vote. That is the policy. That's what I read under number 4.
May I?
But if, you know, I'm still, if you have chair, you indulge me. But it says, any item may be withdrawn from the agenda if requested by the board director or a member of the board, or a member of the board.
Right.
So, if that is a reciprocal, or if you read it in the reverse, and you say add an item, so wouldn't it be the same, any item can be added to the agenda if requested by the board of directors? I mean, where is the language that speaks to, because it speaks to withdrawing from the agenda, but does it speak to the addition to the agenda?
If I could I'm looking at item 3 here on the, it's not a page number, but it says additions and amendments to the agenda may be made upon direction of the chairman of the Board of Palm Beach District at the meeting for good cause upon a vote of the Board of Commissioners of the Board of Palm Beach District. So,
Commissioner, I believe it's on the second page.
Yeah, but it says additions and amendments, but I'm saying before we get to that, because right now, like you said, that was a good example. If I wanted to now to ask to put something on the item for the next agenda, that means how do we get it on the next agenda? Not it's already, if it's on the agenda and we're looking to remove it or we're looking to modify or of that. My question is, right now, if any one of our commissioners wanted to add something to the agenda, how do we get that on the agenda?
You simply will call Beatrice or myself, and then we will put it on the agenda.
But I guess your previous comment was that, I just want to make sure.
Sure, no, I got it.
That, do you have the sole discretion whether an item makes it to the agenda or not? That's what I wanted, just for clarification.
Can I ask
there are,
Well, I think it says right here.
The attorney has to.
I asked for the floor. But I'll let Wayne go and then I go after him. But
I
asked
understand
for the
now,
floor.
item number 5.
Yeah, but that's if I give you what you need.
But
Number
that's
5.
why, I'm hearing two different things, that's why I want to make sure.
Items to see about, okay, I want to listen to the agenda and I'm not the chairperson. Okay, that's me. Number 5, items to see about the board director, less than 10 days in advance of a meeting by the board shall be held for the agenda of a subsequent meeting, except such items may be presented to the board. Yeah, emergency. So I think if I get it in 10 days or prior, it should be right.
More than 10 days.
Correct, 10 days or earlier. It's on the agenda. Now, when we get to the meeting, you might say, hey, we don't need to do this, and if there's a majority, then it's off.
Because you follow
I
around
think
the
it's here.
rules. So,
I think it's here.
I just want a point of clarification.
But it should be right. We need to, it should be
Should
right.
we clean this up?
Yeah, I think it should, number 5 say right.
Commissioner Enright.
Oh, gosh, we made it complicated. But to be simplified, over the years, what has happened to the agenda? The executive director has talked to his subordinates and his staff, and they come up with the agenda. The executive director then sits down with the chair. The chair then reviews, adds, subtracts, deletes, or whatever, and the chair has to approve it. That's why we have a chair. Now, at that time, if something has been submitted by any commissioner, this is what I know we've always done, it would be in the executive director's hand by the time the chair and him would have that discussion before Thursday, it goes out. So then, I've never known for them not to put something on. And so, then it goes on and then it comes to us, and I've never seen us sit up here and vote on if something is on the agenda or not. That's crazy, that's ludicrous, I've never seen that before. So what has happened is, so after the chair then discusses with the executive director, then the chair will say, hey, I'm okay, that's it. Then it goes out and that's the deal. Whatever a commissioner has submitted prior to that is on there, unless there's whatever, and then the executive director will then get back with that particular commissioner but we never had a problem now letting something go on. Now, before you walked in, I talked about the MFK. And then they told me to put it on the agenda because Wayne wanted to see other documentation and, you know, other stuff and exactly the steps of what we were doing. Jared then told him we had it, but then we were told it'll be on the next agenda because we do have some time for that. So, I don't see the big deal of maybe more like,
I think it's helpful for us to look at our policies every now and then. Quite frankly, I think everything is here and it's in writing. I don't think we need to change it, but I think it's helpful that we do these discussions every now and then to reacquaint ourselves. I do think the request should be in writing, and I would suggest that we update our policy, and we have a good policy.
so I need to go back and put MFK in writing?
No, we
I'm
already
okay.
did. We already did.
Okay, so are we all,
I'd like to just ask a question, were you 100% clear, is my question?
Yes,
I think
because-
we are, but.
But I just want to say that because we have a chair, the bottom line is, you know, they work with the executive director, then the chair approves it, then it goes out. And that's the way. It's not somewhere it looks like the executive director has the power to do everything over the chair and commissioners. I think that's the way it's worded on the Twitter. I see right here, it says the executive director, but the chair has the last say so. And so I think maybe that should be put in number 4. After the agenda is reviewed by the chair and the decision is made, and the chair has to approve the agenda, then it goes out for publication.
Doesn't say anything about chair in that.
Right, I know it doesn't, but it gives the power to the executive director. Well, but anyway, that's the way we've been doing it, because Claire, you've been chair all these years, and you know, you
It's
approve
been
it.
like that. The problem, the only problem, and if no one cares about this, so say I want something on agenda that I want to start using Manny's office or something ridiculous. I can come to the meeting, but then the 3 people could say, hey, that's a stupid idea, take it off, I move you take that off. Is that?
That's what it says.
No, that will be
That's
discussed
fine.
before then, because when you present it to Mr. Mayor, he's gonna then,
No, but he's
Well,
not
he-
gonna, he never's taken anything off, he just said.
right.
So he's not gonna
No,
say,
no.
so that's what I'm saying. But, you know, maybe someone, you know, who wants to hurt my feelings and move to his
I
desk.
won't hurt him.
Everyone parties.
See what I'm saying?
Well, I just have another comment, that another way an item can be added to the agenda would be, let's say, Commissioner Enright says, I would like to have events related to Martin Luther King Day placed on the agenda at the next meeting. You vote, yes, it's on the agenda at the next meeting. So it's similar to what transpired today.
Yeah, and my only premise is I've seen it that way too. I've also seen it where you just need basically another commissioner to champion or to add it. You know, most municipalities might do it that way, but okay.
thank you.
All right, okay. All right, moving on then, the 2019 Florida Ports Council and AAPA events. There's the, ironically, it's going on tomorrow, the Emergency Preparation, Response, and Recovery Seminar in Corpus Christi. The very popular AAPA Latin American Congress of Ports, which will be held in Miami, November 19th and the 21st. I believe this is the reason why we had to move this meeting up. And there's going to be a Florida Chamber of Commerce Transportation Growth and Infrastructure Summit, December 4th, in Hollywood, Florida. Commissioners, if you have any questions, and again, I ask if you could please read that report. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to attempt to answer your questions. Thank you.
It brought to my attention, I guess, we didn't actually approve the consent agenda, so can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second, all in favor? Opposed? Engineering report?
Good evening, Commissioners. First item I'll talk about is the MOB demolition and cargo area improvement project. To be honest, FPL progress has been dismal in recent weeks. West Construction has been standing by awaiting this work so they can place the final lift of asphalt. We've tried to bring a representative of FPL to the commission tonight so they could explain why they're not here yet. Luckily, I was able to get in touch with their government affairs representative, and they refer me to Sophia Eccleston, who you all may be familiar with. She's now involved and promises me she'll expedite the progress. Earthwood Reconstruction. Earthwood Reconstruction began cap work on October 25th, 2019. Changes from my report as it was filed with you in time to be in your agenda book is that the delay since that date have made the Port Engineer concerned about the contractor's ability to meet the required completion date. With that in mind, the contractor, our consultant, Kimley Horn, the berth one tenant, and the Port Engineer are meeting tomorrow to ensure the ability to use the berth for mega-yacht berthing in January 5th of 2020. Palm Beach Harbor dredging. The emergency shoal removal was completed Saturday, October 26th, with surveys showing the full harbor channel depth of minus 33 feet. Actually, our minimum depth was minus 33 feet 8 inches. The dredge Atchafalaya will return this week to complete the interchannel and turning basin dredging with expected total removal of over 60,000 cubic yards of sand. In this second phase, all sand will be placed on the beach at the town of Palm Beach. Work is scheduled right now for completion prior to Thanksgiving holiday. Recognizing the settling basin east of the North Jetty is full of sand, the Port Director and the Port Engineer have been working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to ensure that this basin is emptied as part of the mobilization of the dredge. This effort will ensure that we have sufficient capacity to hold sand up current of the jetty to avoid immediate shoaling events in the near future. Our passenger loading bridge update. ECF is preparing to begin phase 2 of the consulting contract with the development of a performance specification that should be able to attract multiple bidders, result in a passenger loading bridge that can efficiently serve our current cruise ships and other vessels if need be in the future. ECF and the Port Engineer have met several times to work out details for this new service equipment. The work order to ECF will be presented for approval at the December commission meeting. Buildings 11, 12, and 13 inspection and assessment. ECF consultants and the Port Engineers are working on the evaluation and assessment of these 3 buildings. The timeline of approximately 45 days to completion and recommendations. Work commenced on Tuesday, October 29th, with an initial walkthrough including the Port Engineer and Director of Operations. The work order value of $34,355 was previously approved by the board. Southgate reefer plug installation. The port also met with ECF consultants to review electrical capacity to develop a proposed work order for the design and installation of up to 10 new reefer outlets to accommodate cargo for Bahamas Express at the request of Port Contractors, Inc. If we choose to move forward with that, the work order is estimated at $15,340, which we will be bringing to the board for approval. I've also been asked to touch base on some of the technical details of port resilience. To let you know, the port and staff are continuing to work on specific strategic planning in the event of a disaster or hurricane, and we'll work on this as a continued growing document. With respect to questions on sea levels, the port operational requirements, as was mentioned by the Port Director, and ship geometry make early incorporation of sea level prediction inefficient for port tenants and cargo handling equipment. However, staff continues to review best available practices and how they can be accommodated with our unique operational requirements. Efficiency in port operations is critical to maintaining the high berth occupancy experienced at the most efficient container port in Florida and the southeast U.S. In fact, the Port of Palm Beach maintains the highest container output per acre of any port in the United States. The general life, as was mentioned, the general lifespan of seaport infrastructure, the relatively predicted slow rise of sea levels, and the 5-year master plan requirement create a good roadmap for Florida seaports to assess and plan for potential impacts of predicted sea level rise on the waterfront operations and infrastructure. It's not efficient or practical for a seaport to expend significant resources in the near term to address potential impacts of sea level rise beyond the predicted life of the structure. In first quarter of 2020, the port staff intends to embark on a conversion to GIS information gathering and logging, which will in part assist in port resilient definition and early action plans for all aspects of resilience planning. The cost of that will be approximately $20,000 in equipment and software. And in this report, November is Homeland Security Infrastructure Security and Resilience Month. Through my participation as an associate member in the American Society of Civil Engineers Coastal Ocean Ports and Rivers Institute, I will be participating in regular webinars and internet-based training and continuing education to stay abreast of the state-of-the-art of port resiliency.
Question. On the Florida Power and Light, when was that? Isn't that supposed to have been done like months ago?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay.
Paid a year ago.
So it was what?
We actually paid for it approximately a year ago.
So, here's my problem, is that we're gonna talk to the government affairs person, and she says, okay, I'll get back to you, I'm gonna talk to so-and-so. I don't know, I mean, Casey, you've been around for a while, and you have any, I mean, we gotta get this done, and I just don't understand what, you know, why MPL, if you or engineer or somebody needs to, you know, go a little higher than the government affairs officer.
Casey Long, McKinley Horn. I was initially part of the coordination of all of this to get the design and everything worked through FPNL, and once we got to that point, kind of stepped back. However, the point of contact that I was working with are the same individuals that Ron and Jose Pryor and Jim have been in touch with. They've gone higher than that. I've never really gone any higher in a level than just a normal staff level engineering component. But the path forward, obviously sounds like it's heading in.
Is there a reason why they haven't done it?
Well, the initial explanation I received, and Jim will be able to give you a lot more detail because he's been involved, but was that the time in which it was supposed to start versus when it actually did start coincided, sadly, with hurricane season, which put them in a prep mode to react to storms. We're near the end of that now, so I don't know. Maybe Jim can fill in the rest of it.
Jim Moore, C2M Jacobs. Yeah, what Casey's saying is essentially accurate. When we were at the point in the schedule when we were supposed to have all the power placed underground and the poles removed, we had a change order that we were doing in order to add some additional underground conduits, and then we also had some quality checking that FPL was doing with the cabinetry that was placed on the site. It just happened to coincide with the beginning of the storm season, and we have just been in a holding pattern because basically when they're underground, everything has to be switched over. They have to notify all customers who are going to have temporary outages, so it's a bit of a logistics issue to have to do all that, but it has seemed inordinately long for them to have completed that, especially now since we were effectively out of storm season. So the port engineer has been doing his due diligence. I have been trying to talk to FPL, but our points of contact to help move the ball down the
Yeah,
field.
I just would reiterate that the commission now is getting a little bit concerned because this has a date that's, drop dead date, so to speak, that's gotta be done. And, when FPNL was, changing the plant, we bent over backwards to make sure
Yeah.
we were doing everything we possibly could with it. So, I just think we need to speak to someone a little higher up and just say, we're getting to a point now that, every meeting the commission asks, is this done? And it hasn't been, so.
Well, as soon as the poles have been removed, they've done some of the switchovers, but as soon as the poles have been removed, the contractor is basically a phone call away, and they'll be Johnny on the spot to get the final lift of asphalt in, get the striping done, and we'll effectively be ready to accept the job as completed.
Commissioner, I've sent an email and I attempted to speak with Pam Rush. No avail. No avail. And of course, Ethel no longer works there, right? So I'm gonna attempt to get a hold of Don, and I do not remember his.
Zalewski.
That's the guy, yeah. I have his phone number, and I just haven't been able to call him.
Thank you. Richard, since he's not here, so there's no government affairs report.
He sent a report regarding Washington and the Senate plans to pass first spending package. I can read it, but it's one of those that I'll believe it when I see it. This thing has been floating around for a couple of years, so with all due respect, Richard, this could wait until maybe next meeting so that he can explain it a little bit better. Unless you want me to read it.
No, that's okay, we have it. Commissioner reports. Does anybody? Commissioner Anderson? We're on to old business, Peanut Island update.
Good afternoon, its grant writer to begin the grant research process. Secondly, we will be having conversations with our municipal peers to discuss the feasibility of creating a joint task force, assuming our visions for the site aligns with the city. We will be scheduling a tour of the site with elected officials and staff to determine the optimal solutions to the renovation of the site, and more information will be available within the next 2 weeks. Port staff has also been working with Richard Penske concerning a bill possibly being introduced in Tallahassee this season by Representative Al Jaquette in the House and Senator Bobby Powell in the Senate. The project that he's looking to fund is for the Peanut Island Bunker. It's the John F. Kennedy Peanut Island Bunker and Cuban Missile Crisis Interactive Educational Exhibit. He's requesting $1 million within both those respective bills. I will be taking a tour over on Peanut Island with a general contractor next week, as well as Ron, to go over the White's proposal for the construction or reconstruction of the property, just to see where they align in the expenses versus the actual cost of repairs to be done. That's all. We're going to go over to Peanut Island with our port engineer as well as a general contractor, and we're going to be evaluating the code violations as well as evaluating the proposed expense of repairing the facility that White's Construction gave to the county.
Good.
So at the beginning, you said that they're gonna reach out, are they coordinating at all with the county, or are you just going
They- Municipal peers is
municipal peers?
correct. It's the term we need.
So not the county? Yes.
Do we have, will you be the representative, from the port behalf, will you taking that tour with them?
Oh, absolutely. With the elected officials, we've had a mule taken over there, so we can, basically drive them from the west side of the, or the east side of the island to the property, instead of trying to get out on the docks that we have over on Peanut Island.
It's a long walk.
It's long
Okay.
walks.
And who on our end is basically making sure that the lines of communication stay open, as far as making sure that we are successful at trying to at least get them on our end, do our due diligence to make sure that we get.
Myself and Mr. O'Meara have been trying to communicate via email as well as cell phone, and also sending texts, so I'm burning them up. Plus, there's a city council meeting tomorrow, which I'll be attending, to make sure I get some FaceTime with Mr. Evans.
Okay, so back to the county.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you find out if they're coordinating at all with the county? It sounds like they're not. The two municipal peers, that could be, one or more. Can you make sure that you're talking town of Palm Beach and other municipalities that are impacted? 'Cause that's kind of a vague statement.
That was from,
No, I mean, that's just.
okay, well, I'll be more than happy to check on that tomorrow. All right, thank you very much.
New business?
Good evening again. First agenda item in new business is K1. This subject is a work order for submerged land lease and maintenance dredging permitting services. Jim Moore with CH2M Engineers, I believe he was with G. Jensen at that time was the name, performed the submerged land lease permitting services 25 years ago at the last required permitting sequence. His personal knowledge of this permitting gives the board the ability to capitalize on that experience and obtain those permits within a quick time frame prior to the expiration in April 2020. This permitting sequence has some unique characteristics that Jim is familiar with due to the extension of bulkhead areas, specifically between slips 1 and 3, where we've filled submerged lands. A part of these services will include obtaining a quick claim deed to those lands from the state of Florida to the Port of Palm Beach District. Concurrent permitting and maintenance dredging permits with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which expired April 2019, make this a logical combination of the services. The Port of Engineers already filed an extension of our dredging exemption with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection under a statutory exemption from these permits for seaports. Once the permitting process begins, the engine will return, and actually I'll return over to the next item with the scope of services from Bowman, the CCNA selected survey firm for the required surveying services.
So move.
Second?
Yes.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
The next item, K2, is the work order for submerged land lease surveying services by Bowman.
So move.
Commissioners, as the port engineer Rowland mentioned, we had some emergency dredge that took place about now a week and a half ago. We were notified this morning that we had some shoaling again. As I say, a week after that the Antipolia came in and went. It appears to always be in the same location, right between, obviously, between the north and south jetty, closer to the outer, the most eastern. We recently had a meeting with the pilots this past Friday, and they will tell you that it's always at that same spot, always at that same spot. So, moving forward, what I'd like to do is approach the Army Corps of Engineers to see if anything can be done in that particular spot. I'm not saying, deep into to China, but something has got to be done.
Where does the shoaling come from?
From the sand. You know, Jenny?
Show us what the problem is.
A lot of it is washing off over where the sand transfer station is. It's either going through or around, and then it comes in here, and you have basically a washing machine down there that just keeps turning as the tide's coming in and out, and it's accumulating right in the center line.
Perfect. Isn't it, don't we have an issue with the sand collecting area just to the north?
Yes.
Full?
That's usually full, and that's what it is now. It's completely full, and therefore it starts to go around the jetty, and then it settles, as where Ken pointed out. Now, we do have a regular dredge coming in, this week or maybe next. Same ship, but we're making sure that the Army Corps of Engineers does go ahead and clean north of the North Jetty. Otherwise, we're in a month or so, we're going to be right back where we are.
Maybe they could just do a little bit more work in that area.
That's what I want to talk to Tim Murphy about, and he knows it. I'm just surprised that they have never come up with a suggestion.
It has nothing to do with the sand transfer plant.
Probably not. It's just the accumulation. Now, the pilots showed us on Friday that some time ago a barge, this lodged and went onto the beaches, and that stopped the sand. We saw pictures of it, but obviously the township is not going to allow it to have a barge. But just wanted the board to know about that.
So in essence, what you would do is just ask them to just dredge a little deeper in that spot to make sure, because.
Well, yes, Commissioner, and ideally, what I would like to ask is, can it go even deeper than where it is today? In other words, if we're down to, let's just say, argument's sake, it's 33 feet. Can they go in there and make it 35, make it 36, just in that spot?
Right.
So that sand can actually accumulate and we can buy time down the road. But over the weekend, I heard about this northern wind coming in, and I knew it. It's going to be shoaling, and sure enough, today is when we heard about it. But this time we're safer in that we're going to have the dredge here in a couple of days. They'll be able to clean it.
I don't think anybody, any of the municipalities would be against something like that.
I don't know.
It's a safety issue, and
It's going to be cost, and that's what Tim Murphy's going to have
That's
to.
what Tim Murphy said.
Okay, thank you. The next board meeting is scheduled for December 19th. So at this point.
I was going to say, President, I say, okay.
Our attorneys want to say something.
Yes.
I was not asked to request an executive session, but I would like to request an executive session to discuss LMH. There may be developments between now and the next month, and you can just, we
So
can
it's a
cancel it.
tentative.
Well, let's say yes, and then we can cancel it.
3:30.
It's easy to cancel.
At 3:30?
3:30, yes. So December 19th, 3:30. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.